Hello. Thanks for joining me in this noontime hour here today. My name's Regina Powers, and I am a family nurse practitioner who works here at the Institute for Health and Healing in San Francisco. I have a background in energy medicine as well as Western medicine. And so today I thought I would spend some time just speaking to what it is when we spend some time in the green gym or being outside in nature, and really a way to find our ground in a way that fills up our spiritual tanks, and it makes our life and how we go through life in a little easier fashion. And obviously, the tumultuous happenings in today's world have exposed so many things to us, but it's also brought us to so many places in our own puzzles, unique and individual to all of us. And quite a few of us are feeling like we're really operating on an unstable ground, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. And the amount of strength and courage it takes to stay present and open to everything we see, it's really remarkable. And some of you may have heard the term beingness. It essentially means to cultivate or be the essence of our true nature. So one can navigate life from this place of being. One can make their way through really life ups and downs so much easier. And so today, I just thought if we can carve out some time, really, and bringing the awareness that the benefits of carving out a time to create a practice of being on a regular basis, we really can discover and or access our internal strength and the wisdom that each one of us carry. And I think now more than ever during this time, really, of the fires, of COVID, of so many things that are happening in this world in this moment, a practice of coming back to ourselves over and over, it really helps to build a more stable and solid foundation. And most of us have learned to take the time to physically keep our bodies intact, and maybe less really with the pandemic. But sometimes if we can divert some of that energy into a daily mindful practice, really we can manifest so much more. And when we do so, in a practice of coming into a connection with our root system in our physical structure, we have an ability to connect to the earth, which then essentially we tolerate more emotional content when it comes up. And so if you think about creating this practice, there's so many ways that we want to release anxiety, fear, sadness, and even the extreme joy, right? There's a balance in all of this. But if we have a practice that brings us to ground, brings us into our system, our emotional content can flow through. It's almost as if the earth herself will compost that. But if we keep avoiding or we're pushing away, especially what comes up emotionally, it really doesn't leave us. It doesn't leave our tissue. It doesn't leave our body. And then, ends up with physical symptoms. And those really are the ones that cause us to have a little bit more of a reaction. And that's how it gets our attention. And so really, it's up to us if we can tune in and listen and pay attention to those messages, then life becomes even a little more serene and peaceful instead of more chaotic. And there's a beautiful quote by Pema Chodron Nothing ever goes away until it teaches us what we need to learn. So if we begin to look at our practice, or mindfulness, or a grounding practice, it's as if we're coming into a place that we call a filling station. We can begin to see and feel how it is to live when we feel full, when our tank of gas isn't running on fumes, right? If we're more grounded and we're more satiated in our being, we end up having more freedom in our system. And we actually have more clarity and more wisdom as we move through life. So a practice that helps us to connect to the earth is really, we're opening up our spirit. We're opening up a way that we say, call in the energy of the heavens, if you will, and bringing that alignment into your body by way of connecting to the earth. Your internal terrain moves so much easier when our tank is filled with spirit. It's a never ending, it's a fuel source that never gets exhausted. And obviously we are spirit in our truest form. And our physical vehicle is really what helps connect us to that source. So if we keep seeking the next perfect something or someone, it does take away from ourselves. And these are the time we have to reel it back into the practice. We have to stop the seeking outside ourselves, essentially, because really it's what lives within us. And we begin to realize we are compassion. Then we no longer seek compassion. We realize we are love. We again no longer seek this from another. We are in need of respect, but we have to have it for ourselves before gaining this from anybody. Just as we need to speak our truth in order to be perfectly understood. We are all perfect just as we are. It's just hard to take that in sometimes. Our beings are most at peace when we find our way back to self-acceptance. So, the next time you are doing instead of being, you might want to stop and ask yourself, am I connected to myself, my body, my breath? And if you are, great. Your spirit is then your guide. But if not, we begin again just by connecting into the earth by way of our body. That begins the activation of your breath. Your mind and your spirit once again become present, and then you know you are connected to you. What truly nourishes our spirit is our presence and our connection to the earth beneath us. Our temple can be our home here on earth. How much or how little respect you have for that home, it really does play out in our life. I think a great way to begin, if you haven't yet started a practice, is really just spending time out in the green gym, out in Mother Nature. It really does help work our muscles of self-connection. Nature has a way of bringing us back to ourselves, as she is always there and doesn't leave us. And it's a way to build those muscles of spirit, the muscles of self-connection. Many of us were taught to go and make things happen in the world. And really it wasn't about building those muscles of being. It does take a bit of a practice. But no judgment, it's really just a stop and start again. So next time you rush out to fill or avoid the ground, just to stop, take a breath, and reset. The earth does carry essential nutrients that truly do satiate each of us. And the rushing through life, it does usually leave us feeling empty, Connecting to the earth fills our tank. And I just thought today it might be a nice way to just start with a short practice for each of us on our time in this moment. And that will help us reset and maybe refill our tanks. So if you are finding yourself sitting in a chair, maybe taking your hands, palms facing down on your legs, your thighs, your back is upright, your belly is soft, your shoulders are away from your ears. And just to start, feeling your feet on the ground. What does that feel like? Do your heels roll out? Are you up on your toes? Do you have a tendency to cross your legs? I'm just asking just to witness and notice how sometimes we avoid the ground. We avoid our bodies. And when you begin to naturally just take a breath, on the inhale, just pay attention if your belly rises. And on the exhale, your belly falls. The natural breath, when it is open and connected, we use our diaphragm and the muscles that actually the earth herself is muscles and the soft tissue. That's part of the earth element in and of itself. And so when we have a habit of using the muscles as they were meant to be used with a full connected breath, breathing helps us relax, and our muscles then become softer, easier to align yourself. And so you realize just a few deep centering breaths. And I invite people to do this every morning. And when you're breathing in, just breathing in an intention for your day. I am aligned and balanced. I am grateful that my body works, whatever it is for you. Exhaling any agitation or any place that is not serving you or that is not you. And so when we do this here now, just wherever you find yourself, when you're outside, obviously it's a little more difficult with our air quality these days, but really a mindful practice is just watching the way your feet touch the ground. Am I fully connected? Am I contacted to her and to yourself? It's a way that each of us finds our day more easily tolerated with everything that's been coming up. And so I will leave you with that thought. And if there is any questions, I would be happy to answer. But it was my pleasure to share that mindful practice with you today.